happy Sunday. There has been a big shift in the open source community and really the medical AI community with the initialization here of the Open Medical LLM Leaderboard. Try saying that 5 times fast. So what we're seeing here to orient folks is on Hugging Face, which is the main open repository sandbox, the place online you go to be able to access AI models. When somebody says that they're open source AI, they are putting it out onto Hugging Face, typically. GitHub a little bit too, but mostly Hugging Face. You'll know it because of, well, the Hugging Face emoji. I didn't name the company, but you know what? It's adorable. So the point of this is going through this this really initial service of benchmarking medical AI models in the open. So we're just going to read through it. The Open Medical LLM Leaderboard aims to track, rank, and evaluate the performance of large language models, LLMs, on medical question answering tasks. It evaluates LLMs across a diverse array of medical datasets, including MedQA for the USMLE, that's the United States Medical Licensing Exam, PubMedQA, MedMCQA, and subsets of MMLU related to medicine and biology. The leaderboard offers a comprehensive assessment of each model's medical knowledge and questioning answering capabilities. Datasets cover various aspects of medicine, such as general medical knowledge, clinical knowledge, anatomy, yada yada yada, multiple choice questions, yeah. So, and main metric that's used is, oh goodness, excuse me. Of course, I'm sneezing during a conversation around medical evaluation. Submitting a model from an automated evaluation on the submit page. And right, the rest of it is about this company, Eleuther AI, that has been one of the main sources of evaluating models. So GPT-4, MedPalm 2, those are taken from their official paper, since MedPalm doesn't provide zero-shot accuracy, meaning that from the first initial prompt versus needing to do multiple prompts, like 5-shot for their paper. And except for MedPalm 2, Gemini results from the recent clinical NLP paper. So what does all this mean? There are a number of data sets that are being used and published on from the community, and those look like this one here, the MedMCQA, and the MMLU anatomy. And okay, so what are those, right? Because it's one thing to say of, oh, well, we have this data set. Well, the question is it quality? Well, I mean, short answer is yes. And what I just did, so again, going back here, clicking on the About, takes you to these data sets. And surprise, surprise, these are published on, most of them on Archive. That's ARXIV, pronounced Archive. Again, I don't name it, but enjoy using it because it's free. And you can see this here. Boop, boop, boop. Oh, just kidding. So it pulls up and it talks about where the data set came from. Again, free to access. Anybody in the world can access it, which is really, the point of good information. And more importantly than that, in terms of that PDF, is that we actually find, and so here on the Compass company page on Hugging Face, so huggingface.co/compass, we have some quality data sets here, and we find, so let's, what was that one? It was MedMCQA, right? Where did I just put that? Oh, okay, right in front of me. So we see these data sets are openly accessible. And for orientation, and I know I'm bouncing a little bit, so, but it's for somebody who is familiar with this, or rather, if you aren't familiar with this, this is to just get you familiar quickly to make sure that people are getting access to the same information. So highlighting really three things in here. One is that this is available for anybody for free on Hugging Face. Two is that this is available also with GitHub, and there's a paper with it. And three is that it has 193,000 rows of data. And again, the question is, well, is it quality data? The fact that this paper has been published these data sets have been published in the New England Journal of Medicine AI for at least the Med MCQA, PubMed QA. I think that says right there just how quality they're considered. And to include even most of these open medical models now, this is what the community at large has said that they are valued of using. And to include, right, so backing up here, and, where is it? Oh, there it is. So the Yale, one of their AI labs, because they have multiple, published this data set in collaboration with a couple of organizations, and these are over 1,627 clinical guidelines from PubMed Central. Last updated December 23, approximately 37,000 rows of data. So you have 47,000 clinical practice guidelines, and this is for their Metatron model, which was a fine-tune of the Meta's Llama 2 model. Right, and there they have this paper here that they printed or submitted to arXiv. So this is a collaboration with, so EPFL, INAB Research Institute, Open Assistant, and Yale. So I'd say it's probably regarded as being been approved within the academic community if Yale is publishing within arXiv. I'd say that's a pretty good indicator, right? And so you can go through any one of these and see for yourselves on the different data sets. MMLU, that's measuring massive multitask language understanding, which, right, that's why we say MMLU versus massive multitask language understanding. And the anatomy, same thing, goes to that paper. So again, most of them go into arXiv, but understanding that really anybody who's creating a model has been taking these. And the really interesting thing here is that this is currently the highest model that has scored. And you can see the scores all on here. Again, thinking of accuracy for orienting here. This is going to tell you the different columns based off of it. When we think of like architecture, that'd be like a transformer model versus a, say, diffusion model versus whatever else have you, or slash if it's like a recurrent neural network or just different sorts of builds. Like if AI models are like cars, basically, think of the different architectures as different brands of cars. Transformers, OpenAI's GPT, and everything that is a transformer from Llama or Meta's Llama to, I think the Mistral models are also transformers, but those are all, even though they're different companies, they're all of the same variety of architecture being a transformer versus Stable Diffusion with their diffusion models. That is a different kind of model aimed at working with images. And then the precision, that just being related to, you'll hear what's called float, which is like floating point operations. So 16, B-float, which is brain floating point 16, and float 32. At a very high level, just know that floating point operations are how a model is trained, and more numbers means more precision, more accuracy, but also more memory use versus smaller amount. So the most here is float 32, second most is B float 16, which is a measure between float 32 and float 16, and then float 16. That is some deep nerd stuff. Just know that it's the higher the float, the more energy, memory, and GPUs you need. The lower, the more likely to be able to use on a consumer piece of hardware, even a laptop, without necessarily a GPU. Maybe not as fast though. And then, right, we look at the hub license, number of parameters. So for comparison, Llama 3 with 8 billion parameters. If you were to not select, these up here, then you might end up finding it. Or, right, if you're looking for just who is the smallest, like Phi 3, which is about 3 billion parameters. And so with this, the major thing, at least I think to consider, is really two things out of this. One is that everybody loves a ranking, and so whether it's the medical LLM leaderboard or the regular leaderboard, there's always going to be this chasing of, okay, we have to make a model that gets on the leaderboard. There have been individuals who've just done something novel and gotten high up on the leaderboard, and there are big companies who spend a lot of money and a lot of time. It's a constantly shifting metric. It's good to see a metric because then it has some accountability, but the second thing and the main thing to take away from this is that there's already a lot of literature that's being published that showcases that metrics for these, they are effectively, can be gamed. And so the question becomes, okay, did you get a good score on this because you ended up gaming it to be able to get that good score? Right? And the real answer is you don't really know. This is one good data point. It's a good metric, but not necessarily the end-all, be-all. No disrespect to anybody who ended up making anything here. It's a huge ability to be able to get to this where you're up here, but it's also a lot of work to be constantly looking at that leaderboard, when in reality it could be some rando that ends up displacing it for a day. And so the consideration here is being mindful of what each of these different evaluations mean, and to really look at for each person who's on here of, okay, let's look at this model and interact with it, see how it's been downloaded, read the paper about it, and really make that determination for ourselves of what does this make sense, and being able to even pull it down, download it ourselves, since you can do that from Hugging Face for free. And I'm sure there's plenty of spaces on here, but to really look at how robustly they end up going through each of these particular sets here, right? And to be able to identify and compare and contrast and really have that peer review that typically people think of in the medical community out in the open, and not just, oh, hey, we did this, but showcasing everything. I mean, the amount of rigor that's going into this here, the amount of transparency, and the fact that anybody can download this model and test it out for themselves, can go ahead and determine and see if they can validate, hey, you said it did this. Did it really do this? And of course, right, to be able to try and break it or try to say, oh, well, it didn't do this. Oh, well, it didn't end up specifically answering this one really niche question. It's like, well, yeah, if you ask anybody enough questions, or you ask it in a way where there's a higher, if you're looking to have a disproving action from one of these models, it's not really that hard. You can find a way, model by itself, to get it to say something or do something that maybe isn't optimal. But to say that by itself, a model without any assistance makes one mistake and suddenly say, oh, this is no good. It's like, well, how many people have made a mistake? And you're not fired on the spot for making one mistake, right? But it's about understanding of how much time, energy, and data has gone through these models, and to use them as a pair partner versus a replacement. So amplifying human intelligence through the thoughtful use of models that are on really the open community and being seen and evaluated in real time based off of valid, peer-reviewed, and really peer-validated methodologies. It's not just about the right amount of code or the data set or the training. It's really everything coming together and then having the compute, the hardware, to be able to run that in a scalable way is really the big takeaway for this. So, because you can always see, you already see or hear clinicians who are saying, oh, well, this thing isn't able to do this, or, oh, I don't know about this retrieval augmented generation. While at the same time, they've never actually written a full Python program in their lives, or they are just using a Copilot, or just using one of the Llama models from Grok with a Q, or, right, and not poo-pooing that, right, because everybody's at different places, but it's just about understanding that the way that things are going, there are already, let's see, I'm on here. Last I checked, I want to say it was about, so there you go, 626,000 models out on Hugging Face. These are all different, unique models that do different, unique things. On that medical leaderboard, let's see, how many was it? All right. Not 600,000, but a fair amount. And then we look at data sets, 138,000 data sets. And you can be able to check here, sort, what's the most likes, most downloads. So in terms of what is quality, well, I mean, you can take a stab at guessing, or excuse me, not guessing, assessing based off of what has been downloaded. I mean, this is what, 2.13 million downloads? It's a lot. 3.58 million down, 4.6. Woo, that's a lot. And one medical QA, 653,000 downloads. I'd say that's probably pretty decent if it's been downloaded that many times. So for folks who are feeling like that their use of GPTs or Copilots, which again, both great things to use, both have a lot of utility, but to think that is where the cutting edge is a complete falsity. It is just not. It is out in the open source community, on Hugging Face, on GitHub, on any number of places, but these are really the main two. And it is evolving, changing, adapting in real time to get better models for cheaper that are able to be more nuanced and are faster because they're aligning hardware, software, data, training. So hopefully this helps, and for anybody who from the more on the traditional clinical community happens to see and has, of course, thoughts of, oh, well, this is wrong, or let me tell you about this, or you're not seeing this, feel free to reach out, and happy to enter into a wonderful dialogue about being able to determine where information is being put out, and really about getting better shared understanding across the board. Because even though open source makes it sound like the wild, wild west, at the same time, I will tell you that, let's see, Meta, for example, right, that company that's been just absolutely crushing it in the AI space, well, they actually are one of the most robust and most cutting-edge folks when it comes to security for these AI models with their Llama Guard. And doing some deep work in terms of making sure that models do not continue the trajectory that unfortunately a lot of social media ended up finding. And they're working hand in hand with the National Institute for Standards of Technology, or NIST. I'm not certain on how many organizations within, say, really anybody else, any other industry, medical or otherwise, is active working in real time to institute things to this level of security and safety. So, again, it's about the information that is out there, and it's an absolute fire hose, right? Like, it's not about, oh, well, this is about everybody coming together, and we all got to figure this out because this is our new normal. And so this, it's important that people, and we just take the ego, put it aside. I tell myself that every day, and just like, okay, what is good for team people? What's good for team people? What's good for team? Let's have a sustainable solution. Let's help people do better, not more, but better, with better tools without costing an arm and a leg. All right, I am way over time, but just wanted to put this out, and hopefully this is helpful for a, I suppose, less rapid, but an overview on Hugging Face, the Open Medical LLM Leaderboard, and really where the open source community is bringing transparency and accelerated development for really uplifting humanity towards a better future. You all take care, and I will see you in the next one.